Listen, the most dangerous place you can live is not in failure, not in struggle, not in uncertainty. The most dangerous place is a life so comfortable that you stop growing, stop dreaming, and slowly forget who you were meant to become. See, most people think danger looks like risk. They think danger is quitting the job, starting the business, moving to a new city, walking away from something familiar, or trying something that might not work. But sometimes the real danger is staying exactly where you are, because comfort has a way of whispering to you. It does not usually scream. It does not threaten you. It does not force you to give up on your dreams. It simply says, you can do it tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And one day you wake up and realize you have been waiting so long to live that life has already passed you by. That is the danger of being comfortable. Now listen carefully. There is nothing wrong with enjoying peace. There is nothing wrong with having a safe home, a stable income, a comfortable bed, food on the table, and people who love you. Those are blessings. You should be grateful for them. But there is a difference between being grateful for comfort and becoming addicted to it. There's a difference between resting and hiding. There's a difference between peace and stagnation. And sometimes, if we are honest with ourselves, we call something peace when really we are just afraid to move. We say, I'm waiting for the right time. But deep down, we know the right time may never come. We say, I'm happy where I am. But every night, there is a little voice inside us asking, is this really all you are going to do? We say, at least I'm safe. But safe from what? Safe from failure, safe from embarrassment, safe from rejection, safe from discovering that you might actually be capable of something greater. You see, the problem with comfort is not that it feels bad. The problem is that it feels good. That is why it is so dangerous. Pain tells you when something is wrong. If you touch fire, your body immediately tells you to move your hand. If you are hungry, your stomach reminds you that you need food. If your heart is broken, eventually that pain forces you to confront something you can no longer ignore. But comfort can keep you asleep for years. You can sit in the same job for 20 years, complaining every Monday and celebrating every Friday without ever asking yourself whether you are building a life or simply surviving one. You can stay in the same relationship long after the love has disappeared. Not because you are happy, but because leaving feels harder than staying. You can keep telling yourself that your dream is unrealistic because dreaming from the couch is easier than getting up and finding out what you are really made of. And the scary part is, nobody may even know you are unhappy. You may smile, you may laugh, you may pay your bills, you may show up to family gatherings. People may look at your life and say they're doing fine. But there is a difference between doing fine and being fully alive. I want you to think about that. How many people are doing fine while dying inside? How many people have convinced themselves that average is enough because excellence would require sacrifice? How many people have buried a dream? Not because they lost the ability to achieve it, but because comfort made them forget it was ever possible. I remember hearing a simple truth that stayed with me. A bird sitting on a branch is never afraid of the branch breaking because its confidence is not in the branch. Its confidence is in its wings. And that is how you have to start looking at your life. Some of you have been holding on to a branch that stopped growing you a long time ago. You are holding on to a job because it is familiar. You are holding on to people because they are familiar. You are holding on to routines because they are familiar. You're holding on to an identity that you have already outgrown because you do not know who you will be without it. But maybe the branch is supposed to break. Maybe the thing you are afraid of losing is the very thing that is preventing you from discovering your wings. Now, I know that sounds frightening because growth is uncomfortable. Nobody likes being a beginner. Nobody likes walking into a room and not knowing what they are doing. Nobody likes taking a chance and hearing somebody say, that will never work. Nobody enjoys failing. But let me tell you something about failure. Failure will hurt you, but regret will haunt you. Failure can teach you. Regret keeps asking you the same question for the rest of your life. What if? What if you had tried? What if you had started? What if you had believed in yourself before it was too late? What if that dream you were so afraid to chase was actually waiting for you to become brave enough? You know, there are people who spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid hard work. They avoid change. They avoid responsibility. They avoid taking risks. And at first, it feels like they are winning. They have less stress. They do not have to face rejection. They do not have to worry about failing. They stay inside what they know. But slowly something happens. Their world gets smaller, their confidence gets weaker, their dreams become quieter, and eventually they start believing that the walls they built around themselves are the limits of their life. That is what comfort does when you worship it. It does not always destroy you dramatically. Sometimes it destroys you quietly, one day at a time, one excuse at a time, one delayed decision at a time, one maybe someday at a time. And before you know it, someday has disappeared. Listen, you were not born just to become comfortable. You were born with something inside you that discomfort is supposed to uncover. Think about every important thing you have ever learned. You were uncomfortable when you first learned to walk. You fell, you cried, you got back up. Nobody had to give you a motivational speech when you were a baby learning to walk. You did not say, well, I fell 3 times, so I guess walking is not for me. No, you fell because falling was part of learning. Somewhere along the way, we grow older and become afraid of falling. We become so concerned about looking foolish that we stop trying anything new. We would rather sit comfortably with a life we do not love than risk looking stupid while building the life we actually want. But let me ask you something. Who told you that you have to know everything before you begin? Who told you that you cannot make mistakes? Who told you that you have to wait until you feel confident? Confidence does not usually come before action. Confidence comes because of action. You do it scared. You take the first step uncertain. You walk into the room nervous. You start with what you have. And every time you survive something you thought you could not handle, you discover a new level of yourself. That is how strength is built, not in comfort. Strength is built when you have to carry something heavy. Discipline is built when you want to quit but choose not to. Courage is built when fear is standing in front of you and you decide to move anyway. Character is built when nobody is watching and you still do what needs to be done. So if your life feels uncomfortable right now, do not automatically assume something is wrong. Maybe you are growing. Maybe you're being stretched. Maybe the version of you that got you this far cannot take you where you are trying to go. And maybe that is exactly why everything feels unfamiliar. Let me tell you about something that happens to a lot of people. They pray for a bigger life, but they reject the discomfort that comes with becoming a bigger person. They want more money, but they do not want to learn new skills. They want a better relationship, but they do not want to become emotionally honest. They want confidence, but they avoid every situation that requires courage. They want success, but they want success to arrive without changing their habits. It does not work that way. The life you want is usually on the other side of the habits you keep avoiding. And I know that is hard to hear because we all want a shortcut. We want somebody to tell us there's an easier way. We want the reward without the sacrifice. We want the transformation without the discomfort. But life has a strange way of charging you for everything valuable. And if you want strength, you have to lift something heavy. You want wisdom? You have to survive some things you did not understand. You want confidence? You have to do things before you feel ready. You want a better life? At some point, you have to become willing to leave the comfort of the old one. And that does not mean you need to destroy your whole life tomorrow. This is not about making reckless decisions. It is about becoming honest. Maybe you do not need to quit your job today. Maybe you need to stop pretending that your current job is your final destination. Maybe you do not need to move across the world. Maybe you need to stop spending every evening doing things that keep you from preparing for the future you say you want. Maybe you do not need to end every relationship. Maybe you need to stop accepting behavior that teaches people they can disrespect you. Maybe the first step is not dramatic. Maybe it is simply waking up tomorrow and doing one thing your comfortable self would normally avoid. Make the phone call, start the project, go to the gym, read the book, take the class, send the application, have the difficult conversation. Stop waiting for a miracle while ignoring the small action that could begin changing your life. Because sometimes the miracle is not something that happens to you. Sometimes the miracle begins when you finally decide that the person you have been is not the person you have to remain. And I want you to understand something else. Comfort can become an identity. You can get so used to saying, "This is just who I am," that you forget you have the power to change. I'm not disciplined. I'm not confident. I'm not good with money. I'm not a leader. I'm too old. I'm too young. I've already tried. No, those are not always facts. Sometimes those are just old stories you have repeated so many times that they started sounding like the truth. And if you keep repeating the same story, you will keep living the same life. At some point, you have to change the conversation you are having with yourself. You have to stop asking, "What if I fail?" And start asking, "What happens if I never try?" You have to stop asking, "What will people think?" and start asking, "What will I think about myself if I keep abandoning my own dreams?" Because people will always have an opinion. When you stay the same, somebody will criticize you. When you change, somebody will criticize you. When you fail, they will talk. When you succeed, they will talk. So you might as well stop building your life around the voices of people who do not have to live with the consequences of your decisions. This is your life, your clock, your opportunity, your responsibility. And one day, whether you like it or not, you are going to look back. You are going to look back at the chances you took. You are going to look back at the moments you were afraid. You are going to look back at the doors that opened and the doors you were too comfortable to walk through. The question is, when that day comes, what do you want to remember? Do you want to remember playing it safe every time life asked you to be brave? Or do you want to remember that even when you were afraid, even when you were uncertain, even when you did not have all the answers, you still moved? Because that is the difference. Successful people are not always fearless. Strong people are not always certain. Brave people are not people who never feel fear. They are people who refuse to let fear make every decision. And maybe that is where you are right now. Maybe you have been waiting. Maybe you have been comfortable. Maybe your life is not terrible, but you know it could be more. And that feeling inside you that keeps telling you there's something else, do not ignore it. It may not be dissatisfaction. It may be your potential knocking. It may be the future version of you saying, "I am still here, but you have to come find me." And finding that version of yourself will require something from you. It will require discipline when comfort calls your name. It will require courage when excuses sound reasonable. It will require faith when you cannot see the entire path. But the beautiful thing is this: you do not have to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You just have to stop sitting at the bottom, telling yourself you will climb it someday, because someday is not a day of the week. Someday is a dangerous word when you keep using it to postpone your own life. And right now, wherever you are, whatever age you are, whatever mistakes you have made, I want you to remember this. You are not stuck because you are incapable. Sometimes you are stuck because you have become too comfortable with what you already know. But you can learn, you can change, you can begin again, you can become uncomfortable on purpose so that life does not force discomfort upon you later. Because growth is always asking you a question. Are you willing to let go of what feels safe in order to discover what is possible? And the answer to that question can change everything. The truth is, your greatest enemy may not be the person who doubts you. It may not be your past. It may not even be failure. Sometimes your greatest enemy is the version of yourself that has learned how to survive without ever demanding more from life. That version of you loves excuses. It says, "I'll start when things get easier." But life does not get easier just because you wait. You get stronger because you face what is difficult. Every dream has an entrance fee, and that fee is usually discomfort. You have to give up some sleep. You have to sacrifice some entertainment. You have to disappoint the people who only liked you when you were easy to understand. You have to become willing to outgrow rooms where everybody is comfortable being small. And that is not always lonely because nobody loves you. Sometimes it is lonely because you are changing, and change can separate you from the people, habits, and places that belong to your old life. But do not let loneliness send you backward. Do not return to a smaller life just because the bigger one feels unfamiliar. Remember, every expert was once uncomfortable. Every successful person once had a first day. Every confident person once doubted themselves. The difference is that they kept moving while they were still uncertain. That is what you have to do. You do not need a perfect plan. You need movement. Because clarity often comes after action, not before it. You can spend 10 years thinking about changing your life, but one honest decision followed by consistent action can begin changing everything. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Imagine that person looking back at you today. Now, what would they thank you for? Would they thank you for taking another comfortable night off? Would they thank you for staying silent because speaking up felt scary? Would they thank you for postponing the dream one more time? Or would they say, thank you for starting when you were afraid? Thank you for believing there was more. Thank you for refusing to waste the life we were given. That future version of you is being created right now by what you do today. Not what you promise yourself you will do someday, today. And maybe you are thinking, but I have responsibilities. Of course you do. We all do. But responsibility is not the same as surrender. You can take care of your family and still build your dream. You can work a job and still prepare for something greater. You can be tired and still take one small step. You do not have to change your entire life overnight. Just stop making comfort your destination. Let comfort be a place where you rest, not a place where you disappear. Rest, then rise. Recover, then move. Celebrate, then keep growing. Because the moment you believe you have arrived, you may stop becoming. And there is still so much inside you that has not been discovered yet. There is strength you have not tested, ideas you have not explored, courage you have not needed yet, a voice you have kept quiet, a dream you have been protecting from disappointment. But listen to me, a dream hidden forever is still a dream lost. At some point, you have to give it a chance. You have to step into the uncomfortable room. You have to be willing to be the beginner. You have to accept that people may not understand your journey while you are walking it. And you have to understand that growth does not always feel like progress. Now, sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like failure. Sometimes it feels like losing everything you thought you needed. But keep going, because one day you may look back at the discomfort that almost made you quit and realize it was the very thing that introduced you to yourself. So do not fear the difficult season. Do not fear the unfamiliar road. Fear only this: reaching the end of your life and realizing that you stayed comfortable because you were afraid to discover how powerful you could become. The world does not need another version of you that is playing small. Your family does not need you to abandon yourself. Your future does not need more promises. It needs action. So when tomorrow comes, do one thing that challenges you. One thing that scares you, one thing that moves you closer to the person you know you can become. Because a comfortable life may feel safe today, but growth gives you something comfort never can. The ability to trust yourself wherever life takes you. And once you learn that you can survive discomfort, failure, change, and uncertainty, you become free. Not because life becomes easy, but because you finally understand that you are stronger than the difficult road ahead. And now, before you leave this moment, I want you to stop for just a second. Take a breath and be honest with yourself. Where have you become too comfortable? What dream have you been postponing? What conversation have you been avoiding? What part of your life do you know needs to change, but you keep telling yourself maybe later, because later is not promised. And the truth is, life is happening right now. Not when you finally feel ready. Not when everybody approves of your decision. Not when you have enough money, enough confidence, enough experience, or all the answers. Life is happening in this moment. And the question is not whether you are afraid. The question is whether fear will continue to make your decisions for you. You see, there comes a time in every person's life when they have to choose between the comfort of who they have been and the uncertainty of who they could become. That choice is not always loud. Sometimes nobody knows you made it. Sometimes it happens quietly. You wake up one morning and decide that you are tired of betraying your own potential. You decide that excuses have had enough time. You decide that procrastination has stolen enough days. You decide that fear has sat in the driver's seat long enough, and you take it back. You take your life back one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one uncomfortable step at a time. That is how transformation begins. Not with a perfect plan, not with a magical moment, but with a decision that says, I may not know exactly how this is going to work, but I refuse to stay where I am just because it feels familiar. And listen, you do not have to become somebody else. That is not the goal. The goal is to become more of who you were created to be. The stronger version, the wiser version, the disciplined version, the version of you that does not run every time life gets difficult. Because there is greatness inside people who have spent years believing they were ordinary. There are dreams inside people who have convinced themselves they are too late. There are gifts inside people who became so comfortable surviving that they forgot they were capable of thriving. But today can be different. Today can be the day you stop asking for permission. Today can be the day you stop waiting for somebody to come and rescue your dreams. Nobody can walk your path for you. People can encourage you, they can guide you, they can love you, but eventually there will come a moment when you have to stand up and say, this is my life and I am responsible for what I do with it. That responsibility may feel heavy, but it is also freedom. Because if your choices help create the life you have today, then your choices can help create the life you want tomorrow. You are not powerless. You are not finished. You are not too late to begin. Maybe you cannot change everything today, but you can change something. You can wake up earlier. You can learn something new. You can stop wasting time on what no longer serves you. You can take care of your body. You can protect your peace. You can work on the dream after everyone else has gone to sleep. You can make the call. You can take the first step. And that first step may not change your entire life overnight, but it changes something even more important. It changes your relationship with yourself, because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you become stronger. Every time you do something difficult instead of something easy, you build trust in yourself. And one day, you will look back and realize that the person you once wished you could become was built through all those small moments when you chose growth over comfort. So do not curse the uncomfortable season. Do not run from every challenge. Do not assume that because something is difficult, it is wrong. Sometimes difficulty is life asking you to grow. Sometimes uncertainty is the doorway to your next chapter. Sometimes losing what is comfortable is the only way you finally discover what you are capable of. The comfortable life can be dangerous when comfort becomes your prison. But the moment you decide to step beyond those walls, everything begins to change. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw fear. You begin to find strength where you once felt weakness. You begin to understand that you were never waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment was waiting for you to become brave enough to use it. So when you finish listening to this, do not just feel inspired. Do something. Take one step, make one decision, break one habit, face one fear. Start one thing you have been putting off. Because your future is not built by the things you wish for. It is built by the actions you are willing to repeat. And remember this, you can choose comfort today and risk regretting tomorrow. Or you can choose courage today and build a tomorrow you are proud to remember. The road ahead may be difficult. You may stumble, you may fail, you may have to begin again more than once, but at least you will know that you lived. You tried, you grew. You step beyond the walls of fear. And one day when you look back at this chapter of your life, I hope you can say, that was the moment I stopped choosing what was easy. That was the moment I stopped waiting. That was the moment I finally decided that my potential was worth the discomfort. So get up, Take the step. Leave the comfort zone when it becomes a cage. Your life is waiting, and the person you are capable of becoming is still ahead of you. Go meet them.